So thank you for coming today. It's going to be a little bit of a different talk. What I'm going to be going over is some of the basics of why you should care about pricing. And my slides are there, but not there. We're still working on it. OK. So the core of this talk is, unlike a lot of the presenters, I'm not looking to acquire customers here. At the end of the day, we're a machine learning platform, and most games that we support are large. They require, a couple 100,000 DAU at a minimum in order to effectively do statistics. So this is really about knowledge sharing. And as part of this, I walk the earth. I talk to lots of game companies, and they constantly ask the same questions. Should I have a $99 price point? What should my conversion be, et cetera? And so we did a study. We put it out. We ran it for about 8 weeks, a survey on the web. We did it in conjunction with Pocket Gamer. They promoted it. There's a summary of it on Pocket Gamer Biz right now. And we found out a lot of things. So it's really interesting. And you can download it there. If you want to, you can put your email address in. But I would encourage you to just download it and then email it to all your friends. So obviously, most of the people who responded to our survey use IAPs. Interestingly enough, 90% use IAPs, 68% use ads. And that means that most people are using both in-app purchases and ads at the same time. So that's kind of fascinating. I hadn't really fully understood that. But then we asked this question. At what point in development do you decide pricing tiers? So how much are you going to charge? And you'll notice that roughly half the universe decides their prices in beta. So not once they're launched, and certainly not regularly and so on. Some decide their prices in early design. And then most people do not offer different prices to different users. So the combination of that is really interesting to us. I'm going to set my prices in beta, and then I'm going to offer the same prices to everybody globally. And I'm not going to adjust them. And that one's really interesting. I'm going to set my prices in beta. I'm going to offer everybody globally the same prices, and I'm not going to change my mind once the game launches. And this is, an interesting thing. And so I have 20 minutes to convince you that you should at least pay attention to conversion. And actually, I only have like 16 minutes left, 17. So this talk is about conversion and why conversion is much more important than you think it is, even though you probably think it's important. Is anybody here unconvinced of the importance of conversion? Cool. So this is a picture. It's from one of the games we have under management. The left-hand side is sessions in a given day. And you'll notice that large portions of the world are black. Generally speaking, the populated universe plays this game. If you look on the right-hand side, most of those people never wind up paying. It's really kind of interesting when you start looking at New Zealand, which is completely populated by players, and yet has nobody buying. So who here has done this sort of analysis on their game and noticed that conversion rates dramatically differ worldwide? Few people. Maybe more in the back, but the lights, I can't see you. So this is an obvious thing, right? People have different levels of money. People have different levels of appetite for purchasing IAPs. But if you go back a slide where people are offering the same prices worldwide, and then you go to this slide, you kind of go, that's really interesting. And this is a chart from a different game, countries versus percentage of users. So this is an Android game, I believe. US is the most populous, then Brazil, then India, then Mexico, then Russia, then Thailand, then Turkey, Indonesia, Vietnam, Spain. And I give up. I don't remember what IR is. But if you look at this is really interesting as well. It's the flip side of the previous chart. It just says, by percentage, where is your traffic coming from? And this is common across Android. If you're running an Android game and you're focusing on the US and Western Europe, you're losing about 2/3 of your traffic. On the other hand, about 55% of your money will come from the US. So it's kind of dramatic. And it just reinforces the point that conversion rates are different globally, and monetization rates are different globally. So first fact, people who buy stick around. So people who stick around also buy. You know, if you like the game, then you're going to both buy and stick around, so that's true. But it's also true that the act of buying encourages people to play longer and retain. It actually improves retention. You can actually do the causal analysis. And in 2 games randomly chosen, it was roughly a 2x. And in general, the pattern exists. So people who buy on days 1 through 3 retain at about a 2x rate over people who don't buy in days 1 through 3 when you measure on D14 or D7. So who knew that? Okay, cool. New knowledge. Great. So what does that mean? Well, if you sell IAP and show ads, that means if somebody buys, you can show them more ads. It's kind of interesting, right? When people buy, they stick around. If you can get them to buy once, they're going to retain at twice the normal rate. And that means that if you're using ads as a monetization strategy, you're going to show more ads as well. So that first conversion, it's valuable not only for the money they spent, but it's also valuable for the ads you get to show later on. Second thing, who here has measured their second purchase rate? Cool. What is it? 0. Okay, I'm sorry. I should know not to have asked that question. So again, the same games that I had in this one, second purchase rate. 36% in game 1, 29% in game 2. In general, for most games with a tuned economy, you'll have a 20 to 60% second purchase rate. Most people don't know this number. Most of our customers, when we go on our initial sales call and we ask this question, they say, why are you asking that? And then they say, we don't know. And they opened up their wallet. They took out their credit card. Not really, they entered their password into a dialog box, but they bought. They're going to buy again, assuming that you had any sort of reasonable value prop. They liked the game. They bought something in the game. Unless you sold something that was the entire game, like a DLC pack for the extra levels, you're going to get a second purchase more often than not. Oops, sorry. And that means if you sell IAP and show ads, somebody buys, they stick around. You show them more ads. And more often than not, you're going to get a second purchase. So that's really interesting. We call that the triple dip. You get the first purchase, you get the incremental ad revenue, and you get the second purchase. And by the way, the third purchase rate is usually between 10 and 30%. So there's actually a quadruple dip here, which is pictured this way. If you're a sports fan, I should have used the Triple Crown or something like that, but I went with ice cream cones. But that's an interesting thing, right? You start with, you notice that different groups of people segmented in various ways have different purchase patterns. This purchase pattern is a global geographic dispersion pattern. There's also the same pattern with respect to device quality. Everybody likes to talk about how iOS and Android monetize very differently from an in-app purchase level perspective. But what really happens is expensive phones monetize differently from cheap phones, or low-priced phones, I should say. This exact same picture, but not a map, but around phone qualities like dots per inch or secondary storage or stuff is also true. And every time you figure out somebody who wasn't going to convert, who was unlikely to convert, and you adapt prices for them, you get all 3 pieces of the ice cream cone. And that's all I want to say today. Well, I'll answer any questions you have, but the point was really to just say, when you look at a number like conversion, what happens? You take it apart, you slice it around, and then you wind up realizing that increasing conversion is a lot more valuable than it appears at first blush. So, open to questions.
Yeah. Oh, got some questions at the front here. You can see better from here.
Yeah. Actually, this is much better. Wow. Yeah. Cool. Sure.
I'm curious, for those metrics you mentioned, what you've seen between iOS and Android, not just between geos.
You mean so for like DPI and things like that?
You've seen, what is the discrepancy between iOS and Android in terms of conversion and second-day purchase?
So iOS in general converts a lot better.
Yeah, we all know that, but I guess my logical question is, what does it look like in 2016?
Right. So in 2016, an iOS, in the games we have that are on both iOS and Android, iOS has about a 4 to 5x conversion differential. So an Android game that converts at 0.5% will convert around 2 to 2.5% on iOS. At the same time, if you then start taking your Android population and breaking it down by device, so if you look at Samsung high-end devices released in the last year, those perform very close to iOS. It really is that level of differential. There are other things, so DPI is a huge signal for likeliness to convert. Secondary storage is a huge signal for likeliness to convert. Believe in the United States, Verizon versus T-Mobile is a huge signal. And you start saying, I have a device that is iPhone equivalent in terms of capabilities and was bought in the last 12 months and is on a high-end bandwidth provider or occasionally on a Wi-Fi, and you wind up essentially with an iPhone. It really does work out that way. What Android does is Android brings like 10x the users to the table, but unfortunately they all live in Vietnam and have 4-year-old phones.
10x the users and 5x the conversion rate.
At 1/5 the conversion. They also buy smaller packages.
How do you, what's the impact of kind of the double dip or showing ads against the second time purchase rate?
So, I mean, you can show ads in such a way that you really just horribly cannibalize your IAP purchases. Generally speaking, by driving users away as they get that full in the middle of the game experience video ad. You can also do it in ways that don't. So it really depends on how well you do it. We have customers who have decided that you click more coins and up pops a dialogue saying, want to watch a video? And you have to say no in order to get to the paywall. That actually hurts sales. But there are ways to do it that don't. So it's really game dependent.
Yeah, so I was curious how you guys approach looking further and drilling further down into the data in terms of, I guess, your framework for your approach to a project and whatnot, and looking further down. Because, I guess all the industry metrics are there, like marketing and whatnot. But in terms of, getting more insight into it, what are your kind of ways of approaching it?
So one of the things we do is we mostly don't measure the common metrics. Or we do, and we use them on our dashboards because people look for them. But they're not really what we're looking for. What we're looking for are behavioral indicators. Time to purchase, time is a very important component to this. How many people have any idea what their Tuesday purchase rate versus their Friday purchase rate is? Okay, you should go look. It's dramatically different. And your Tuesday 4 a.m. joiners, if you actually do that segmentation, I'm willing to bet you'll never see a spend. People who join at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday don't buy. People who join at 5 p.m. on a Saturday do. It's just a fact of when people are playing games and when they're thinking about games and so on. Insomniacs are cheap. Anyway, so what we do is we're gathering a lot of data. In order to do what we do, we install an SDK. And then, we're getting terabytes of data and running, fairly complicated machine learning algorithms over it. That's why we're not really appropriate for smaller games. But what we're doing is we're essentially viewing the user as a set of events and then viewing that as a time series. And so time to certain events is actually key, and then location is key, and time of day, et cetera, analysis. It winds up being about 400 different numbers. Oh, sorry, you're pointing to who?
At the back.
So did somebody in the back over there raise their hand?
Right here.
Oh, there?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to know, what is the single most important indicator of if a player is going to be a monetizing player or not?
It depends on game to game, actually. There is no number one. One of the things we do with our customers is, 2 weeks into it, we basically show them a graph of the ones that matter the most for their game. Frequently, it is join time, join day, join hour. That's usually I've got 5 minutes less. Okay, so when people join is actually a huge predictor. Quality of device is a huge predictor. Engagement is a huge predictor. You have to separate out day 1 from day 2 from day 3 from past day 3. And past day 3, the most important predictor is engagement. So if you're looking for who's going to buy on day 1, that's a little bit harder. If you're looking for who's going to buy on day 7, but not on days 1 through 5, you know, it's various convolutions of time in game turn out to be the most important predictor. Other questions? Sure.
How did you guys come up with the idea of looking more at sort of these behavioral traits instead of, you know, relying on, you know, the industry, so to speak?
So I was the CTO of a company called Live Gamer that does payments processing. So we did global payment methods for microtransactions. And so I spent from roughly 2007 to 2012 watching games launch in microtransactions and sort of just staring at it. You know, we built the platform, we processed the payments, and you know, you just watch it over and over again, and then you realize, like, you know, I mean, the fundamental question is, you know, suppose somebody told you your ARPU dropped, what would you do? And the answer is it's a non-predictive indicator, right? It's you know, the patient is sick, but not how to heal them. And so I watched it for a long time, and then we sort of gradually built this platform to do it. You know, and it really is a lot of sifting through lots and lots of different things, and it really is different on different games. So to some extent, the other thing we did was we took basically all the folklore, and there's a ton of it, right? So who here's read any presentation by Emily Greer? Cool. So Emily runs Congregate. Her name is Greer. About 3 times a year, she gives great presentations on what Congregate sees in terms of player patterns. So you take all of those. You take Nick Lavell's free-to-play toolbox. You take everything that Eric Seufert's written. You take, and you just say, okay, you know, what are the common fields across all of these? And you wind up with 300 or so. And then some more just sort of boil out as you're doing it.